They faced a bit of a lawsuit actually for this. A teenage Steve Harris was at this show, and he kind of nicked some lyrics from this song. And because they were on this timeline and there was like a hurry to get the song out, he neglected to remove those guide lyrics and put his own in. That's what the lawyer said.
It's been a while since I've been to the liquor store getting over COVID. Still tested positive.
Oh, no way. So you still have the vid?
Apparently.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I thought you were past it.
It's I tested positive a week ago today, and I still tested positive, yesterday. So,
wow.
I've been okay. I've been the family's been worse off than I have been, but I've been just really tired, and our youngest hasn't been sleeping. So, on top of me being tired from getting over this thing, I'm just tired from not sleeping. So, it is what it is.
You know what'll drive the vid right out of your body? Heavy metal.
Heavy metal.
In the form of Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. This.
Yeah. Oh, yes!
That's it.
He's heard my complaints. He's shown me amazing. The cassette.
I actually have some fun show and tells today in addition to that. I have. I've got this. This is the official tour program from 1984, the Power Slave record that came out like 2 albums after that. But it's fun because this is what you got at the show.
Oh, wow.
And so there's like pictures of the show and stuff like that.
That's cool.
But isn't that great?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, still have it. Oh. And I saw them again in 2008, and I got this also. But it's cool because it's got all the like eddies that came after, like Seventh Son of Seventh Son, and Somewhere in Time is on there too. You can see, and Live After Death. So if you're a Maiden fan, this is pretty cool. But Maiden is so good to their fans, right? This whole thing is like this massive poster if you unfold it.
That's so cool.
And then just one more quick thing here. An old Kerrang! This is from September 1984. And you can see Eddie there.
Wow.
That's Power Slave. So this is when Power Slave came out. And Power Slave is rated, actually reviewed in this Kerrang!
Wicked. What did they say about Power Slave? You remember? Did you read it recently?
You know what? Very prescient. We should actually... I'm going to show this because it's actually really cool. So keep in mind, this is 1984. Okay. September 1984. They reviewed the album. Sorry, I'm doing a horrible job here. I'm building suspense, everyone. They do say one thing that's actually really interesting. Here it is. They say, can you see that at the top?
What's it say?
Power Slave may one day be recognized as Iron Maiden's greatest phonographic achievement. And this is 1984. And in my opinion, it was not their best album, but it was pretty damn good. Wow. Now look at this on the next page. Our old friends, The Cult. Their first record, Dreamtime. See that? Interesting.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's an ad for their first record. Very little known band at the time, The Cult. How about that?
1984.
Available on video cassette.
Wow.
Isn't that neat?
That's cool, man. That's great. That's great you still got those.
I do.
How do they survive? Do you keep them in plastic or you just like brown boxes or? Yeah.
In plastic and storage.
Wow.
Yeah. I have like loads of these. I have piles and piles.
What are you going to do with them when you get older? Are you going to make a room?
No.
No?
No.
Not gonna have a room?
I don't think so. I don't know. It's just fun to go through every now and again. You know, I read these magazines. I'll go through them and kind of. It's interesting because when I was like 15. You know.
Of course.
And I remember all that stuff.
Now you said what was good for the Rona was heavy metal.
Yes.
The Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. I couldn't agree more.
Oh, you got me. You got
got
me.
you.
Did you see I was like,
oh no,
yay.
This is exactly what I needed in my life for this last
good
week.
For you. I'd like to like reach through the screen and shake your hand because I'm so happy to hear that.
Oh man, what?
Good for you. So talk to me about it.
What an album. This was fantastic. Front to back, every song, every moment. Like,
no way.
Oh yeah, dude, it's crazy. I'm like, I feel like when I was with Rush, now I'm like, I gotta go listen to every Iron Maiden album. So I've made it through 4.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I made it through 4 other albums. I made it through their first one, made it through Killers. I've gone through Peace of Mind, and I just started getting into Power Slave. So
beautiful.
Goodness me. What a band. And I'm trying to look at like what book I want from them. So if you have any ideas on books, like I'm all in.
I could not be more glad.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about that.
I figured you'd like that response.
Oh, this is one of my favorite bands. Like, but see, keep in mind, I heard Number of the Beast when I was 13. So I was completely receptive, right? Because when you're 13, you're just seeking out these sensations. And like this came to me, if some guy had it and he's like, do you know this? And I'm like, what is that? I saw the cover and it just like, it blew. I don't even know what to say about this album, Alex. Like I will credit this record with changing my path in life. Like it truly did. Because when you are, I believe that like, you know, when you're at that age, like, you know, 11, 12, 13, 14, you're formative, right? Those are formative social years for you. And you really start paying attention to what's going on in the world and everything around you and people and everything. And I heard this album and I could have picked Springsteen. I could have picked, you know, Wham. I could have picked Waylon Jennings, Iron Maiden, like, you know, and I was a Kiss fan, I know, but like heavy metal was my thing because of this band. This was the first record I heard, the first metal record I heard, and I was gone. I was all over it. I could not get enough of it.
Fantastic. You know, too, like when you see a cover like that, it could totally, like when you see a cool cover like that, you know, I sent you a list of albums that bands that I used to listen to, and a lot of those bands I was drawn to were the cover art. You know, it was like it was like so cool, and then you listen to it and you're kind of like, But what is just so much? Got to be so much better when you get a cover like this that's so intriguing, it's so badass, and then the music is only maybe like the greatest ever. Like to accompany such an album cover.
When you're that young, everything is so much more fantastical, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like it takes on such a bigger meaning because like there's no mortgage and there's no, you know, job. But this is it. Like this is everything. I'm like, oh my god, like this is it. Like look
the
out everything
devil's
else.
On there. This is like a dead thing. It's like I probably shouldn't be looking at this, but I am because I'm 13 and you can't tell me what to do.
I was so excited by this album. And it's cool because like they're smart, right? The image fit the music perfectly. Yeah. And whenever you heard the music, you thought about the image. Like I thought about Eddie all the time when I was listening. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
And they brought Eddie out on stage when they played live. They had this huge like 12-foot Eddie guy who came out and, you know, it was they're geniuses. Iron Maiden, I love these guys.
Well, and you know, you credit Rod Smallwood too with keeping this album cover for this album because the artist Derek Riggs had originally drawn this up for the Purgatory as single artwork for their previous album Killers, and he was like, no, we're gonna hold on to this and use it for something else. It just so happened to be perfect for, you know, one of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time, and it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a cool fact too, Alex, is when you look back, Derek Riggs was the artist who did this stuff, and he would, for their singles, create a separate, you know, for the 45, it would be issued on like a little kind of like a square piece of paper, right? Because the 45 was just like maybe the size of my hand here.
Okay.
And so it was like this little piece of paper, the sleeve that it fit into, and it would contain the album art for that single. And then like everything was like this adventure, like, and the artwork matched the song, and you're like, wow. So it added this whole new dimension to how you perceived the music and how you received the music, right? It was just like so fantastic. And so,
and for a band to have something like this to lean on as the imagery, and they say it too, they don't have to worry about being on the cover. They don't have to worry about their image being used. They've got this character that drives this, this look and feel of their music. Not that they're thinking about marketing, themselves entirely. Eventually I'm sure it made sense, but, they just wanted to play the music and not be bothered, really. Yeah.
Well, and we were talking in an earlier episode, the Def Leppard episode, about, looks, right? When MTV came into being, bands capitalized on their looks.
Yeah.
And AC/DC did not, but Iron Maiden was another band who did not, right? They did not, they were not posers. They were not pretty boys. Eddie got pushed forward, and, they posed for pictures, stuff like that, but they were just like, they were lunch bucket guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They did not dress, for flamboyance, and didn't tease their hair up. Like they were just like, they were lunch bucket dudes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All about
from the pub.
All about the heavy metal, man. And
oh yeah.
So we can get into a little bit, but I think the most, I don't know, I guess important fact is this is Bruce Dickinson's first album with the band. Yes. Which is pretty wild. And I gotta say, Paul Di'Anno didn't do a bad job. I actually enjoy his vocals. I don't think I don't think Iron Maiden would have been who they are today if it wasn't for Bruce Dickinson coming in. But I also think that Di'Anno, it was still pretty cool, but I guess a little more punk than metal.
I don't know exactly what to say about that. I think that he served his purpose. Di'Anno did. I think he did a great job. He was punk-ish. So I guess I would say that like and you have to think about the scene, you have to think about the time, like all that stuff, right? So he had short hair. He looked like a punk. He acted like a punk. In London, particularly in the East End, towards the end of the 70s, there was a very much thriving punk scene. It was a big deal. And Di'Anno was, kind of part of that movement. But something interesting happened, in the early 80s, and that was the new wave of British heavy metal. And that's where Bruce Dickinson comes in, because he was in a band called Samson. And so Steve Harris had Di'Anno in the band, and they did the first two records, Iron Maiden and Killers. And he had kind of a limited vocal range. I mean, he was a good singer, and he was a great front man. He did a good job. But Dickinson had this operatic voice, and they used to call him the human air raid siren, because he was just like, he could hold notes forever, and his volume was insane. And he had like, he just had like so much more in his toolkit. Like he truly did. And so they poached him from Samson, and Di'Anno was having drug issues too. So they kind of just, gave him what they called the Spanish Archer. You know what that is?
No.
Elbow.
Oh, got it.
Beat it.
Okay.
Elbow.
Yeah.
It's stupid English humor.
They knocked him out. They kicked him out, or did he walk? I thought he walked after their tour.
He said that he quit. But
okay.
Maiden said that they removed him.
Got it.
And this is all like now. I mean, Deanno's in a wheelchair because he's in very poor health. Steve Harris is paying his medical bills. They had like this really cool reunion where I think they're playing in like Croatia or something like that. And they invited Di'Anno and his wife as guests, and he and Harris kind of reunited, and Maiden's paying his surgery bills and stuff like that. So kind of like a happy ending to the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dickinson was like, coming in hot. They were like, we got to get this guy. Cause like, and Harris wrote songs that were they required someone like Dickinson to sing them, you know? So it was like next level stuff. And Harris is not stupid. He was like, he saw the end. Like he saw all this kind of playing out. He's like, I got to get this guy. Like he's a hot shot. And sure enough, they got him. And Number of the Beast was the result. And it is, listen, and you I think you did this. Listen to Iron Maiden, listen to Killers, but then listen to Number of the Beast. And you will see this massive trajectory.
It's wild.
Upward and forward.
It's wild. Yeah, like you need, when I think about these songs, especially, Number of the Beast, but Run to the Hills, those are the songs that I knew coming into this album. I don't know, I feel like I say this a lot, but it just gets me when it's like only like your third album and those are the songs that are on it, but it's your first album with a new singer and those are the songs that are on it. Like it's just wild. Again, it's that just an unbelievable musicianship that comes out of these people, these players that, I don't know, they're just born to do this.
And I said lunch bucket guys like Steve Harris. This was probably this lineup, and it would change a couple more times, but one more time critically, they brought a new drummer in after Clive Burr. They politely removed him from the band and brought in Nico McBrain because he was a little bit more proficient. But there had been all kinds of lineup changes because Steve Harris was the guy who started the band, and he said, he was almost like Nicky Six or Motley Crue. He said, okay, so this is what I want it to look like. I'm going to have two guitarists. This guy's not really pulling his weight, so I'm going to take this guy out and put this guy in. Now this guy doesn't match with this guy, so I'm going to bring another guy. And he literally did. He built the band, and you can see through the years, I think when did they start? Like 75 or 76 or something like that. But he was building this band, and they played in pubs. They started their first gig was this place called the Cart and Horses in East End London, and they would play at the Ruskin Arms, right, with these different dudes. And he was just like, he had his eye on the prize. He's like, one day I'm gonna get there, and he did. He built this band from scratch, and bless him. The tunes. So one interesting thing about this is a lot of interesting things about this record for me, but there was a song that was left off this album. I don't know if you know this story.
Yeah. What was this between? It was a B-side that came out, right? With Number of the Beast or Run to the Hills. Like it was a B-side they left off, and it ended up being on a later version. So that's as much as I know. So
they had, I don't know how many songs are on this record, like eight I think, right? And they had 9 songs. And so they were being rushed to like get this, they were on a timeline. And they said it was whoever their, record company was, EMI, Harvest, whatever it was, said, okay, so here are the dates. You have like 2 weeks to do this. And let's go get the songs done, get it out. And Harris is like, okay, holy shit. They wrote Gangland. They wrote Invaders, but they rewrote Invaders. It was called Invasion, and they played it before. And they had Total Eclipse. So they had to like deliberately leave one of these songs off. And so they said, we have 9, we can fit 8. Like which one is going to be left off as the B-side, knowing that, it would not be on the album. And so they had a vote, and they voted that the song called Total Eclipse would not be on the album. Right. And they all regret it now. Yeah. Because Total Eclipse, they played it live when they supported the record, and everybody was like, wow. And I love that song too, Total Eclipse. Okay. It was so good. And they said, there was so much pressure on us. We made the wrong decision, we know. They wanted to not put Gangland on the record, and they thought Invaders was weak, Steve Harris said. He said, but like, it was just a bad decision. I regret it. And, in 95, they re-released the record, and they included Total Eclipse on the album.
Yeah, that was between Gangland and Hallowed Be Thy Name, I think is where they fit that. What, screw you guys, okay? Because Invaders and Gangland are great. Like, you didn't tell me you made the wrong decision because you left those friggin' that one song off and left these other, like, get out of here. This is great.
I love Gangland too. Yeah. I know the whole record. Like, see, this is one of those records for me, and I know that not everybody's going to agree with this. If you skipped, I would get up and like, put the honestly, every song on this record is just like there's no
reason to skip it, and we'll get to my point at the end of the album too. But Invaders, great kickoff, love it, ton of fun, production. Martin Birch just kills it with this album as well. Everything sounds great, and I think it sounds way better than Peace of Mind as well. I don't know if Birch produced that one as well, but this album sounds incredible, and Invaders is just fun, and I love that Invaders do 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 do. Like it's kind of like cartoony a little bit, right? It's sort of like this. Oh no, there's Invaders do do do. Like it's just kind of got this quirkiness to it that is just, I love it.
It's funny, right? Because the whole album has that. I totally agree with you, and it kind of plays into the visual thing, but Maiden had this really good sense of humor too, where they would kind of have these like little winks, right? Like there was little inside jokes and stuff like that, almost like Rush, like in the same way. They were very intellectual, and they put things on their album covers that you would have to look for, and that led to something else, and it was like this really cool. Yeah, they were a thinking man's band. For sure.
Well, it was. I mean, Steve Harris wrote majority of the songs, at least in the first couple albums, and then I know coming into this one, I think he didn't have a whole lot. They kind of came in with a bit of a blank slate or something like that, and they had to come up with a few.
People differ on that opinion. People say that if you go back and listen to like the Killer World Tour, apparently 6 songs from this record were played live. Yeah, but then other people say most of the songs were written in pre-production for the record. So there's some weird disparity there. Yeah, they say Invaders and Gangland were both written in the studio. Everybody agrees on that. Yeah, but everything else apparently was played live.
Children of the Damned.
Oh, man.
Okay, we should just say love. Okay, Prisoner, love.
Right? Every song. I'm so glad. Like, I am so thrilled that you're on like a little Iron Maiden kick now, because you will get lost in this band's.
I can't wait.
Offerings, like you all of it. Like, and it's cool because you have the internet now. I didn't have the internet when I was a kid, so I couldn't see all the Eddie posters for the singles and like all the artwork and read about all the stuff. Right? Like, there is so much in here that you can dig into. It will consume you, man.
Children of the Damned is it was one of those. It was when that came on. It was sort of that slow sort of opening. It was kind of like, how you feel sometimes with Metallica songs, where it's like, oh, you know something's coming. That's how I felt like right away with this song. Is that it's not going to stay like this for long, and I think that's the thing I love so much about heavy metal, even in general now, is it's like it's going to start one way and it's likely going to end completely differently. So enjoy the ride. And that's what I loved about Children of the Damned.
Yeah. And that's almost a timepiece for me. Like, these songs sound very like back in early 80s. Like, a lot of these songs were written in the same way. Now, I mentioned the new wave of British heavy metal. Iron Maiden was a very above average band in that movement. There was Judas Priest, Def Leppard, which is kind of weird, Angel Witch, Saxon, like bands that were coming from Britain but were coming to America because of this new movement that was like post-punk, right? But it was exciting because like Maiden had this kind of sound that was all their own, but they implemented those kind of those bits of like, they would start with an acoustic and you knew that there was going to be the it was just coming, and you're like, same, we talked about this with Metallica. It was like, like what's going to happen next, right? But it's, oh man, I don't know what it is, and I'm kind of lost for words because I just was so, they got me right at the right time, I was 13 or 14. This music was written for people like me, right? I was their core audience. And so every time a new album came out, I would run to the record store literally and be like, what do they have for me now? Like, they were my friends. I like Kiss, right? Like, I felt like this is for me. Like, we have something together. And that's what every band really kind of strives to do with their fans.
Well, it's a great point too, because because Maiden were made off of their albums and their live shows. They didn't get airplay. They didn't get radio airplay.
No.
These guys were made off of their singles. Run of the Hills came out as a single before their big tour, and that was huge. And then this album never came out until I think like a week or 2 weeks or a month before their tour was over. So people were just dying to hear these songs, but they weren't a band that were getting airplay. So they had to tour. And when they toured, that's how they built their following.
The Prisoner.
Information.
Do you love that?
I love
That's
it.
like from the show The Prisoner, right? But like I say that just to bug Amy around the house. I'll say like, who is number 1? You are number 6.
I'm
not a number. I'm a free man.
so good, man. Right. I didn't realize they opened any other song. Like I know, Number of the Beast is whatever. Apparently, it's a verse from Revelations, and you know that intro. But like when I heard the Prisoner start like this, I was like, they did it again. This is so cool.
See, and like how much guts does it take? And how much balls does it take to do that? Like, if you heard that today, you'd be like, that's so stupid.
It's so bad, though, the way the music industry is today, because if your chorus or your hook isn't within the first 30 seconds, you're not going to get anybody. But that's another thing.
I know.
So, yeah, no, totally, man. It's balls, for sure. It's great. It's so good.
It's so great.
And
so cool.
It might be my favorite song in the album. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love this song. I'd never heard it before. I friggin' love this song.
And that's crazy. Like for you to say in this tune stack that's your favorite song.
I agree. Wow. I would say Run to the Hills or Number of the Beast if I didn't know it before. And I'm not taking anything away from those songs because they are fantastic. But because Prisoner was so new to me, I was like, this is so good. And again, the melody of the chorus is just right. You're like
the way, and you know what, Alex? Deano could have never sang that.
You're right.
Like the way that chorus ends, his voice is so high, and the very end of the song, they finish with that, right? And it's just Dickinson's voice floating there.
A little piece of trivia there. What was it? Rod Smallwood had to call the guy. They had to call the guy to get permission to use the clip for the beginning of that song. And he botched how it went. And everybody was like around the phone, like hoping he was going to say yes. And he kind of botched the line. And they're all like, no, that's not what it is. But then.
Because he was nervous.
Yeah, that's right. And then the guy who I guess he was the actor, but also the creator, he was like, do it.
So he said, this is funny because like, they planned all this, and they got the guy's number, and I can't remember his name. It's like
McGowan or something.
Something like that. Yeah. Like I can't remember, but anyway, so he was like a celebrity, a proper celebrity in England at the time. And so Smallwood's all ready, and he's got the script, and he gets him on the phone, and he hears his voice like on the phone with him, and then he gags, right? He's like, and he just like kind of like stumbles and says something, and the band and they're like, oh shit, now like we're never gonna be able to use this thing. And so the guy says to him, he goes, what's the name of the band again? And he says, Iron Maiden. And he says, is that like a rock band? And he said, yeah, it's a heavy metal band. He's like, heavy metal? Use it. And then he hung up the phone.
It's so cool.
It's like, I think we got permission to use it.
It's so amazing.
And they did.
What a story, eh? Like that's the shit you got to do. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I love that too.
Man.
Oh, 22 Acacia Avenue.
The Avenue. Oh, yeah.
This is kind of a cool story.
Okay. I know a little bit.
So this is part 2 of Charlotte the Harlot.
Right. Okay.
And Charlotte the Harlot was a song about a prostitute in London's East End. But it's really cool because it's a lengthy song, but like, Dickinson shows off his pipes in this tune too. And you know what? I want to ask you a question about that. Okay, so we've talked in previous episodes about vocalists who kind of grate on your nerves, and you called Elliot Grady Gritty, right? Or Gritty Grady, or whatever you did.
Yeah.
So Joe Elliott, Axl Rose, you liked McCafferty, Brian Johnson, but how do you feel when Dickinson goes into that scream? Because he does it in Acacia Avenue a couple times.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite parts. It isn't. But you know what? Like, I love the range. I love that he sings like that, and he has a following of just like metalheads. Like, this is heavy metal and you're singing like this, and you've got guys with long hair mosh pitting, circle pitting, wall of deathing, like, to a voice like this. Like, yeah, that's what I love about it, and that's what I think about when he starts singing like this. I'm like, how do you have these hard looking, like, heavy metal and I'm just saying, like, I know that they're all very, very nice people. You know, like, a lot of the guys that I've met at these metal shows are like great guy, but you know, like, there's like a hard edge, right? Obviously, that comes with type of metal. So I just think about that, and that's why I'm okay with it. But I do admit there's a little bit, because it does it in Gangland too. It just gets pretty high, but
he doesn't. It's funny because Dickinson doesn't really do this in subsequent records. He does it once, I think, on Peace of Mind in a song, and I don't recall exactly which one it is. And he does it once on Power Slave, but on this album he does it a couple times. And what I mean is he goes into this scream. So he does it twice in this song. He says, "Charlotte, when are you going to give up on this madness?" And it's like crazy, right? Because you're expecting him to deliver the line, and then the scream comes out. And then he says something about when you reach the age of 40, you think about the days that you were laying, and it's like, again, like, holy fuck.
It hits you.
But it's like he's almost just showing off. He's like, hey, you know, like a kid with a new toy.
Yeah.
He's like, check this out.
Yeah.
And that's part of the kind of exuberance and the excitement that this record provides, right? It's just like, it's new and it's fresh and it's exciting and everybody's like super stoked.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool, man. Like, I think it works. Yeah, it's a bit much, but it just sounds right. It sounds right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a great tune too. 22 Acacia Avenue again. Like, great melodies, great chorus. Like, it's just great.
The instrumentation is great, right? And the two guitarists kind of like weave with each other, and it's a journey.
It's funny because I was thinking about this when I said that about Aerosmith and Van Halen and The Who and Metallica. You, like, just in their own way, right? You, like, the best bands do that, is what I'm getting here. The best bands know how to take you on an adventure. They know how to take you. It's not just intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end.
There's craftsmanship, right? It's almost like you can hear the guy saying, no, I put the middle eight right here, and then, you know, we're going to do like a modulation. And there's like, they really kind of sit around and think about it. It's just such a different pace now, you know? It's like faster, more.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a shame. I'm so glad that I grew up when I did.
Yeah.
Because I have a very firm and genuine appreciation for,
well, that's what I'm
this music.
Jealous of, is that you grew up when, like, this wasn't the album. You know, this was an album to get into. Like I said, I got into metal albums, but there was still so much. There's still so many metal bands and albums at the time for me to listen to.
I will tell you that a lot of my friends didn't listen to Iron Maiden, though. They were like, Iron Maiden is loser music. So you get called skid, right? It's like, this Iron Maiden's for skids. And I played on a lot of the sports teams. So I was kind of, you know, hanging out with the jocks a lot. And, you know, it wasn't cool for me to wear my Iron Maiden t-shirt, you know, when other guys were wearing like Le Chateau and all that stuff.
Ralph Lauren.
Right? No, seriously, it was like, think about the 80s, dude. It was like Miami Vice. Like, it was crap. Like it was super prep, right? And so to wear a Metallica t-shirt was not a cool thing. So, you had to be, it was careful navigation back then. But I'll tell you, man, like I blasted this stuff. And I was proud of it.
You had to blast Number of the Beast. Like what a tune. Like,
man.
It's a great tune.
Like that scream at the beginning, right? So that again, we talked about this with Def Leppard. There's like a build up, right? So do, and it's like, ooh, it's like going on a roller coaster. The song doesn't just start and go. There's like a little kind of, it pulls you in again, and you're wondering what's going to happen. And Dickinson is kind of like, narrating, and then like bang, right?
Yeah.
It's so amazing. And that scream that he does.
Fuck.
How do you feel about that? That's the highlight of the song.
If I didn't read up about it, I would have said they stole it from Roger Daltrey in the Who's.
Oh, really?
Won't get fooled again.
Won't get fooled again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they sound almost identical, but it's great. It's a great way to get into it.
Yeah, maybe. Dickinson had a hard time recording this song. I don't know if you, in your research, found this, but I had heard this story a long time ago when they were recording this track in particular. Dickinson was kind of a hot shot, right? So he came into the studio and everybody's like, oh, I'm so glad we got a new singer and he can do this and that. And he's so much better than Diano. And that really went to his head. And he was like, fuck, I can go in and just knock it out. And so when they were recording this, the first couple lines, Birch was thinking like he's not really he can do so much better, right? He can do a lot better. And so he kept saying to Dickinson, no, do it over. Do it over. Do it over. And Dickinson apparently picked up a chair and threw it like at the wall and said, fuck you, I'm not doing it over anymore. Like I gave you like 35 takes. And he left the studio. And then he eventually came back and Birch said, listen, like think about the lyrics of the song and put yourself in it. Like imagine that you're there. And then Dickinson started thinking about it and he's like, he's right. Okay. And he tried it a different way and he nailed it.
Wild.
And that's the take that you hear.
I guess a lot of weird things though around this, right?
Yeah.
With Martin Birch getting into that car crash with a van full of nuns and he got a bill
for
£666. Yeah,
pounds.
It's wild.
Cool? Yeah. So apparently when they were recording this, there's a lot of stuff going on in the studio. Like power would go off and things would get erased and people just kind of looked at each other and said, like, what happened there? And they couldn't explain it, right? And then somebody said, well, maybe it's like, it's, otherworldly spiritual stuff's going on. And this all culminated in an accident that he had. He hit a minibus full of nuns. And then he apologized and went on his way. And then he got this invoice for $666.
So crazy. Yes, fun stuff around there. Run to the Hills.
The vocal.
I mean, just that drum line. It's just like the guitar. No, everything about the song. It's fantastic.
All of it. Yeah. Right. It's a clinic. Like they're putting on a
clinic.
A heavy metal clinic. Just I always think about when I hear this song, and it has such crossover appeal too, because like there are women who love the song. I was at university and I was like, a metal fan, but I kind of, when I got in my 20s, I started listening to stuff like Neil Young and Zeppelin and stuff like that and the Beatles. And I got away from metal a little bit, but we were screwing around one night before this party that we were all going to, and I pulled out Number of the Beast and I put it on, and I think I was 22, and we're having a party in my frat room, and Run to the Hills came on, and these girls jumped up on the furniture and they were
Loving
screaming like,
so good.
"Run to the hills!" Oh, and everybody started dancing and yelling.
Amazing.
And I looked around and I was like, "Wow!" Like these are people who listen to like Oingo Boingo and
did you get a video with your? Did you get a video with your phone, or did you Instagram? Did you put it on Instagram?
Alex, I did, because it was 1991. Yeah.
Did you Snapchat
I used my
it?
iPhone. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. You fucking ding dong. That's exactly what I did.
Okay, I was gonna say it never happened if it didn't go on social media. So that's cool.
Man, thank God. Thank God. I did not have this.
Seriously.
Gangland. Actually, before we go into Gangland, let's talk about sequencing. Where would you put Run to the Hills on this record?
I have no problem with the sequencing of this album. I'm actually surprised that it actually takes as long as it does to get to Number of the Beast and Run to the Hills. I would say if you wanted to, you could put Number of the Beast as 3, and maybe Run to the Hills is 5. But yeah, maybe if you wanted to, Invaders, Children of the Damned, Number of the Beast, Run to the... no, I love it. I got no problem.
I have always thought, since I've heard this record, I've always thought that I would have opened it with Number of the Beast. Just because of that very kind of like cinematic intro, right? And then like that scream, and it's just like, whoa, it sets the stage for the whole record. And I probably would have put Run to the Hills 2nd or 3rd.
I think it just speaks to the power of this album. Like, if you didn't know, like, I knew these 2 songs, so I'm kind of like, wow, I'm surprised they're so actually like low, quote unquote. Like, well, they're side 2, right? It's like they're side 2 of, which I am kind of surprised about, only because I know the popularity of them. But aside from that, it's like you can put these songs at 5 and 6. Because there's some great songs on this. The rest are great.
That's pretty impressive when you can do that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That just speaks to the power of this record. And Gangland was a song that almost got left off this album, which is kind of funny. I love it. I've always really liked this song.
I had to think about when Van Halen's 1984 came out.
The drums. Anything about the drums?
Yeah. Hot for Teacher.
Funny story about that. Adrian Smith told this story. So Adrian Smith and Clive Burr, the drummer at the time, got to the studio first. And they were waiting for the other guys. And Clive Burr said, "You know what? I'm not a songwriter. You guys write all the songs, but I would love like to have a song where there's just like crazy drums like all the way through, like can we do that?" And they were just having this conversation privately, right? And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he played the beginning of Gangland, right? And then Smith picked up his guitar and came up with that progression, that descending thing. And then they kept playing, and he's like, whoa, I think we have something here, as the guys were coming in. And then they said to the other guys, "I think we have a tune here." And then they all jumped in, and they were like, "Fuck, this is cool. I like this." And Gangland came from that.
Super cool that a heavy metal band could come in and do something kind of jazzy. Yeah. And then turn it into what Gangland is. It's great, man. Like, they knew who they were. They knew what they were doing. It's kind of cool because you go back to Killers, and it's sort of when they're starting to get that, they're talking about that the twin solos sort of sound. And, they had their musical sense leading into this album. And then Dickinson just came in and completely enhanced it with the vocals. But that's what it was. Just a great staple of their sound are those guitars. And then drumming's great. Good tune. Love this tune.
Yeah.
Dead Man, Tell No Tales.
Me too.
That's it.
The lyrics are cool too, right? Because you're like, ooh, look what do.
They gotta do that.
Do. How long can you hide? How long can you run? A rat in a trap. And you're like, holy crap, like what's gonna happen next?
It's just like perfect lead into Hallowed Be Thy Name. Like, it's just this, like, completely, I don't know, you ever think about being on death row? You ever think about your time coming? You ever think about that? Here's your opportunity.
You know, when I think about the song, and we've talked about this before, what a closer. You know, we talk about like the importance of closing songs on records. And this is like the ultimate closer. Oh, yeah. It truly is. This is an epic song. Great ender.
It perfectly runs into Invaders. I don't know if you listen to it on like streaming, but like when you listen to streaming and you just put it on repeat, it perfectly runs into Invaders after that.
Is it the same chord?
Well, there's the big drum thing at the end, and then it's like, down. Well, yeah, but it down, and then Invaders starts. It's perfect. It's just the way that it runs into it. That was the one thing that I wanted to say at the end of this album that was like really cool for me, is that like this song, Hallowed Be Thy Name, ended, and then Invaders like picks up where that ends. So it's almost like this album just perfectly runs through.
They faced a bit of a lawsuit actually for this. So there was a song called Life's Shadow, and I can't remember who wrote it. It was 73. And apparently Smallwood managed another band, and Steve Harris was at this concert with Smallwood. I could be wrong about that. But Steve Harris, a teenage Steve Harris, was at this show, and he kind of nicked some lyrics from this song. He saw them live, and he's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And the story goes that when Harris was writing the song, he put the lyrics in there as a guide that he lifted from this other band. And because they were on this timeline and there was like a hurry to get the song out, he neglected to remove those guide lyrics and put his own in. That's what the lawyer said. They settled out of court much later on. And I don't know like how much Harris paid, but I'm sure it was quite a bit. But yeah, there was a little bit of a lawsuit there.
No, that sucks.
But fucking great song.
It's a great song. Yeah. Love it, man.
Like you don't throw the word epic around a lot, but this is an epic.
Epic tune.
And Dickinson's vocal running low. He holds that note, and again, that operatic delivery, right? So even, tone, semitone. Like his voice just floats, and it's like this beautiful thing.
It's perfect.
This guy's a wizard.
Just perfect.
Oh. So,
5 out of 5. Sorry.
I was going to say, so what are you going to give this record?
5 out of 5 life-changing faces. Yeah, I'll go 5 out of 5. I'm going to keep them at 5, and I'll bounce back and forth between 5s and 10s, but let's keep it easy. Okay, where are we going after this? What's happening now? What are we doing?
Oh, I think that we should stay on the metal tip,
all right,
my friend.
Let's do it.
I want to do, you know what we could do? Let's do Judas Priest.
Judas Priest. Okay. I had a feeling where we're going here. What's the Judas Priest song? I don't know a Judas Priest song off the top of my head.
Okay, I got a record for you.
All right.
So I'm a big Judas Priest fan too. And again, I always go through the trajectory, right? Like of their albums. But I think the one that we should talk about is British Steel, 1980.
We'll do it. We'll do that. I love it.
All right.
Let's keep it going.
Done deal.
All right, man.
All right. Metal brother.
Viva la Maiden.
Look at you. I'm very proud of you.
Thanks, man.
You're a little Maiden head now.
I love this. This is great.
Head.
Woohoo! Look at that. Yeah. Look at you go. Kerrang.
Things. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. I got nothing. Right. I got none of that shit. I want a shirt. I was trying to order a shirt before tonight. Like I was trying to get something. So
seriously.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
The shirt and the books, and you'll have all of it soon.
I'm on it.
You get into it, man. Maiden is that band. You just want to buy it all up.
I'm doing it. I am doing it.
All right.
Okay, dude. Nice.
All right. Cheers, brother.
Chat later.
Ciao.